in listen-only mode.
Right, hello everybody and welcome. This is Claire Jarrett, otherwise known as the top-ranked AdWords trainer worldwide. And I'd just like to do a quick sound and screen check. Would you mind typing in yes to your questions box if you can both hear me and if you can see my screen, please? Yeah, fantastic. Lots of yeses coming through. Brilliant. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at what Google's not telling you when it comes to setting up an AdWords account. That means that 90% of every pound or dollar that you spend will be wasted, both now and in the future. Well, in the next 60 to 90 minutes, I'm going to show you the correct way to set up an account to keep the money in your pocket, not Google's. So what I'd like you to do now is get rid of any distractions. So would be a good idea to close Facebook, close your email, turn off your mobile phone, put it on silent, etc. And I just want to give a quick thank you to Names and Register 365, which is the reason why most of you are here today. So they've invited you all here today to learn about AdWords. And I just wanted to point out to you that I will definitely be taking questions at the end of the session. Okay, so I won't stop the presentation until the very end to make sure that we keep the flow going. And then this session is being recorded. At the end, I'm going to tell you where to go to get the recording. Okay, so now I won't enter presentation mode because I will be jumping in and out between PowerPoint and between Google, because obviously you're here to learn about Google AdWords. So I won't enter full PowerPoint presentation mode. I will leave it like this, so it's slightly minimized on your screen. Okay, so a very, very brief intro to who I am. So I am the former owner of Computer Training Solutions, which was the first company that I set up in 2006, selling that one in 2009. I then set up a second company, which was an internet marketing agency that I sold last year. I've written 3 books on AdWords and SEO that many of you may have copies of, and that was different dates between 2009 and 2013. I've trained thousands of small business owners just like you in internet marketing techniques, and I'm the top-ranked AdWords trainer in Google worldwide. I've been delivering public courses to hundreds of delegates, etc. Okay, so what I'm going to jump into now is I'm going to launch a very quick poll on your screen that says how much are you currently spending on AdWords per month? Okay, I just want to get an idea of whether my audience are new to AdWords, whether you're spending less than £300. Some of you may be spending more than that, spending up to £600. Some of you may be spending up to £1,500. Some of you may be spending more. Okay, so if I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right, okay, so what we've got is 61% of you are currently not using AdWords at all. So that means that you're either not spending on AdWords or you've tried it and it didn't work for you in the past. 29% of you are spending between £1 and £300 a month. 7% of you are spending between £301 and £600. 2% spending between £601 and £1,500, and 1% of you spending over £1,500 per month. So that's fantastic. Thank you. So that gives us all a great idea of the type of audience that we've got listening today. So now Google AdWords, if you set it up correctly, okay, and this is what we're going to be looking at today, if you set up an AdWords account correctly in any sector or industry that sells any type of physical goods or services, then you should be making on average somewhere between 5 times whatever you spend and 25 times whatever you spend. So that's an average return. It's between 5 times you spend and 25 times you spend. So it would be a good idea to make sure you've got hold of a notepad and pen, because you are going to want to take lots of notes throughout this. You will of course still have access to the recording as well, just in case you do miss anything. So here's a few industries where I have set up successful AdWords campaigns. You know, I know that it definitely works in industries like these. So if you're a local business, it can work for florists, locksmiths, electricians, plumbers, nurseries and private schools. Okay, it can also work for business to business. So for example, if you're in the email marketing space, if you're selling web design, if you're selling marketing data, these are all areas where it can work. and e-commerce websites. So children's clothing, plumbing supplies, skiwear, anything like that. So those are all examples of industries where AdWords has worked very, very successfully. So AdWords can work for your business. So just a couple of very specific examples now. So there's one example for a company that I was working with called Plastic Drainage. They were spending £2,000 a month on AdWords, and that was generating £50,000 a month worth of sales. So they are in the B2B market. They sell plumbing supplies to plumbers. Okay, so it's B2B, so it's business to business. They are actually selling to plumbers, and that was, excellent return that they were getting. The second example is business to consumer. So this is a painter and decorator. These are Graham Holpany, one of our clients. So they've spent £450 to date, and that generated £35,000 in sales. That's more than 25 times return there. Amazing return that they generated. So AdWords can generate some amazing returns as long as you set it up correctly. So, right, okay, let's jump into what does Google actually want to see? Why do most AdWords accounts not work at first? So of the high percentage of you, let's go back and see what percentage of you was it again. So of the 61% of you that had not used AdWords or that were currently not using it, some of you will have fallen into the, you'll have tried using AdWords in the past, you will have lost money on it, and you will recognize many of these errors that you made, that you tried when you launched an AdWords campaign, and this is what's caused the problem. So what we're going to be looking at now is the settings, that why it didn't work for you, and more importantly, why you can't rely on Google to tell you what to do, because Google isn't set up for people to make Google, for people to make money. It's set up to make Google money. Okay, so Google makes itself money, not you. So it's nearly impossible to set up an AdWords account by yourself and get it making a return immediately, straight away. If you just set up an account quickly by yourself, whether you realize it or not, you will have accepted all of the various default settings that I'm going to demo to you shortly. So when one of my clients, Bristol Ground School, had set up an account by themselves, they were shocked when I audited the account and reported back to them what was actually happening. So they were actually being matched against lots of really irrelevant keywords that they didn't realize they were showing against, and this is the danger. Some of these keywords were actually quite dangerous to their brand and fairly pornographic, some of them. So they were quite worrying types of keywords, so you need to be aware of watching out for things like this. So where the advert wasn't matching the keywords, what was happening is the click-through rate was just 0.23%, which is a very low percentage of people that were actually clicking the ad. So normally you would be aiming for around about 3%. Once all of the errors were corrected, it improved 1100% to 2.56% in just 3 months, and they had so many leads and sales coming in that they were rushed off their feet dealing with the extra business. So that's the difference that it can make for an AdWords campaign that's not set up correctly to one that is set up correctly. Okay, so let's jump on to the next slide. So why you have to avoid the Google default settings. So the first thing you do when you set up an account is you set up a campaign, and I'm going to demonstrate these settings to you now. So let me go and jump into AdWords. Right, now I apologize if at any point the internet is shaky between you and I. Obviously we're dependent on my internet, your internet receiving it. So if at any point the screen appears slightly jumpy, that's down to the internet connection. I try and do it as smoothly as possible, but I have had comments before saying that the screen goes a little bit jumpy as I'm doing the live demo, so apologies in advance. So, okay, I'm going to show you the correct way to do it and the things to watch out for as I'm going along. So we would go to campaign, and it would be search network only. Okay, now I'm going to explain more about the settings that we just looked out for now. Okay, so the campaign name you would call something that represents what you're selling. So it might be, if you were a locksmith, you might call this Locksmiths in Bristol, for example, something like that. Now the type of campaign, this is one of the default settings that you must look out for. If I click here on the drop down arrow, Let's look at the different options we've got in here. So we've got search and display network, search network only, display network only. We won't bother looking at the video one. Now, the display network, if you were to leave it to the default, which would be this one, search and display networks, this default setting of Google's means that your AdWords ads will have ended up on hundreds and thousands of irrelevant websites. Now, lots of websites run advertising on their site. Let me go and show you an example of a site that I own where you can actually see this happening live. Okay, so your ad will have ended up on sites like this. Okay, so let me just wait for it to load a second. So at some point you will have seen little adverts like this. Okay, so there's an advert there, there's an advert there, there's an advert there. Okay, now if you had yours set to allow display network, yours could appear on blogs like this, it could appear on forums, it could appear all over the place wherever a website such as this accepts advertising. Now, the bad news with this is the fact that these people that are on this website aren't actively searching for what you sell. So let's go back to the example that I was just talking about then about the locksmith in Bristol. So if you were looking for an emergency locksmith, you'd go to Google and you'd type in something like locksmith Bristol. You wouldn't go to a blog or a forum and accidentally come across an advert for an emergency locksmith and then call them. But if you left this settings to search and display networks, what would have happened is your advert would have ended up showing on hundreds and thousands of irrelevant blogs. So you need to make sure you've always selected search network only. So that's really, really important. On the display network, nearly every penny that you spend is wasted. So a couple of weeks back, I audited an account for a company that was selling glass catchers, which are a form of glass decorations to hang in windows. 45% of their budget to date have been wasted on the display network with no return. So you must turn it off. So this is really worth checking to make sure that you turn that off. Okay, so that's the first setting that you're looking for. Let's carry on scrolling down the settings and I'll carry on pointing out to you the ones that you want to watch out for. Now where it says networks here, I just want to point out to you there's a little tick box that says include search partners. Now search partners are other smaller search engines that get their results from Google because they don't want to run their own advertising platform. And that's smaller search engines like Ask Jeeves, Orange borrow one from Google, etc. So to be honest, this one isn't as much of a problem. So most of the time I leave this one ticked and it's not going to cause you any serious problems. Something that you will want to watch out for, now I've scrolled down slightly, I just want to show you where you'll have selected the location. So we've got the location that you want to include in your campaign. So if you are running a local campaign and you've set it to United Kingdom, then your ad's going to show to people all across the UK, and this happens all the time. I'll search for an advert for a company, let's say a Bristol florist, for example, and I see a florist that only serves London. So they don't want to come to Bristol. Their vans can't cover Bristol. So why are they advertising in my area? So this is a huge potential waste of money for you. You need to make sure you've got the location correctly selected. So if we tick the box that says let me choose, what I would then do is, let's say I wanted to run it in Bristol, which is obviously where I'm from, and let's say I wanted to have it, well, I would like it to run, a few miles around Bristol. I'm more than happy to travel maybe 15 miles away, and that's quite common for plumbers, electricians, locksmiths to be willing to travel a few miles. I would type in Bristol, then click on nearby. Okay, and it tells us that Bristol's reach here is 1 million. Now, if I wanted to advertise 15 miles around Bristol, what I would do is select radius targeting here. Okay, so that will give us a radius. Now radius targeting, I type in the place name. Let's say we wanted to set it to 15 miles and then click search. Okay, now can you see it's now highlighted the area 15 miles around Bristol. So if you're then happy that that is the geographical area you want to cover, you then make sure that you add it. Okay, so once it's gone blue, that means you've selected it. If the area's not gone blue, you've not correctly selected it. So if I then click done, can you see now it says 15 miles around Bristol? So that's how you can tell you've done it correctly. Okay, so that means I now have it geographically targeted. Other things that I would like to make sure that you look out for. Now, a lot of you will have this setting on by accident, by default. So on my campaign, my previous ones in this account, I've said I'll manually set my bids for clicks. Under bid strategy, you will have automatically selected AdWords will set my bids to help maximize clicks within my target budget. For that, what that means is Google will make sure it sets the amount you're willing to pay as high as it possibly can to make sure it spends your money every day. So that's code for Google will make sure it spends your money for you every day without fail by putting the bids up to whatever it thinks it should go up to. So that's a way to guarantee that your money will be gone every day with very little return. Very important to say, I'll manually set my bids for clicks. Now, most of the time, my advice is whenever Google offers you any type of automation, say no. There is no excuse, there's no way around the fact that you need to do these things manually. Google's automation generally is to suit Google's purposes, not yours. So I would always say I'll manually set my bids for clicks. You could put a default bid in here. Now, just to take you back, don't want to jump ahead of ourselves here. A bid is how much you're willing to pay to actually get a click from somebody that types in a keyword that represents something that you sell. So a default bid, if I was to type in £2, that means I would pay up to £2 for that click. It doesn't mean you'll always pay £2 because you enter an auction that we'll go into more very shortly. So the default bid is the maximum amount you'd be expecting to pay. I always get asked about the difference between the default bid and the budget per day. The default bid is how much you're willing to pay for one click. The budget is how much you're willing to spend per day. So if I set my budget to £10, let me zoom in a minute slightly so that we can see that, because I appreciate that might be slightly small for some of you to see. So if I had the budget set to £10 per day and I had the default bid for a click set to £2, that would mean I'd normally get up to around about 5 clicks. So that would be 5 clicks of £2 for my £10 per day budget. Normally you would expect to get more than that because most of the time it would fall at less than £2. So you'd probably expect 6 or 7 clicks. Okay, so that's what it means there. And then you would quite simply then just save and continue. Okay, so that would be your campaign correctly set up. So what we did was we just covered the display network, making sure that was off. The search partners, which could be on or off. So let me just say, whoops. So that could be on or off. So the search partners was things like Ask Jeeves, the Orange search engine, etc. That's really up to you as to whether you leave that on or off at this stage. It's not going to do any harm. It's not one of those that's going to cause you a huge amount of damage. The enhanced cost per click, you needed to turn that off. That was just here. Okay, that was this bit here. The bidding options. I'll manually set my bids for clicks. Now the broad matching slightly different and it's not in the campaign settings, but I thought I really need to warn you about this here because this is one of the major places where, because I audit a lot of AdWords campaigns, this is one of the major errors that newcomers to AdWords will make. So what they'll do is they'll type in, let's say, Bristol florist as a keyword. Okay, so let's say that you had the keyword Bristol florist. Now, the trouble with that is it will get matched against lots of really irrelevant terms. So it would get matched against people looking for jobs as a Bristol florist. It would get matched against people looking for nurseries in Bristol that are selling, the smaller plants. It would get matched against people looking for Bristol garden centres. Basically, it would get matched against lots of very, very irrelevant things. Now, that's the danger of broad match when you enter the keyword. So when you get to the keyword stage, what you want to do is you want to put a plus in front of each of the words. Okay, now this is called modified broad match. So we would have plus Bristol, that's then a space in there, plus florist, and you do that for all of your keywords. So if you were to do nothing today apart from go through and correct the things I've just previously told you, then go through and edit all of your keywords so that they've all got a plus in front of each word, your click-through rate would, I would say, probably at least double by tomorrow, just as a result of the changes that I've just told you about here, because your advert's not showing against lots of irrelevant things. Your advert's not showing against people looking for Bristol garden centres, Bristol nurseries, Bristol plants. You've cut it down. What this plus does is it tells Google you're only allowed to match my advert against really, really relevant things. So you're only allowed to match it if somebody looks for Bristol florist, Bristol florists, florist in Bristol. Can you see the difference? Really similar keyword phrases. So you've told Google it's not allowed to match it against just anything. Okay, so that's another default setting that you need to watch out for. Really, really important, that one. Okay, so let's now jump over to quality score. Now, quality score is one of the keys to cost and bidding and trying to get your costs down within AdWords. Lots of people don't realise that quality score exists, and that's because Google hides it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to find it from where it's hidden. Okay, so let me just cancel my way out of that one. Now, what we would do is we would go to the Keywords tab. Okay, so of the tabs in AdWords, I've chosen the Keywords tab, and I'm then going to add the quality score column so I can see this mysterious score that I'm talking about. So we're in Keywords, we need to add a new column. So we go to Columns, Customize Columns. We're then going to look at this one here that says Qual Score. Yours, if you've not previously added it, which most of you won't, will say Add. Okay, mine obviously says added it because I've done mine previously. You would add it, you scroll down and you apply it. Okay, and at this point what should now have happened is you've now got an extra column. Can you see that? Okay, so we've got an extra column that has now appeared. Okay, and you can sort it by quality score. Can you see what I just did? I clicked on the word qual score and that sorts it. Now, it's all very well having a score out of 10, but what's good and what's bad? Now, let me show you what is good and what's bad on this little table that I've prepared for you. So, if your quality score is 5, which is the standard, then that means that your bid costs don't go up or down. So you're not paying more, you're not paying less. Look what happens if you can get your quality score for a particular keyword to a 6. You get a discount of 16.7%. If you get your quality score to a 7, you get a discount of 28.6%. And so on. Look what happens if you can get 10s. You get 50% off every click. Now let's go and look at the reverse. What happens if your quality score drops below 5? If it's a 4, you're paying 25% more for every single click. If it's a 3, you get 67% extra on every single click. And look what happens if you get a quality score of a 1. So I have seen this before. It's fairly common. Some of you may be finding quality scores of 1 right now actually in your account. So 1, you pay 400% more for every single click. Now, how do you actually improve quality score? The key to quality score, oops, wrong browser. The key to quality score is getting the click-through rate up. So we're not going to be looking at that specifically today, but just take this tip that writing better and better adverts, now writing better adverts is something we're about to come on to very shortly. Writing better adverts means you'll get the click-through rate up. The click-through rate, which is this column here, is the percentage of people that see it that click it. Okay, so you can see here we've got a click-through rate of 1.98%. We've had 18 clicks and it's shown 909 times. Okay, so that made a click-through rate of 1.98%. So it's how many people that have seen it that have clicked it. Okay, and you're going to be aiming for ideally around about the 2% mark. Ideally higher for some keywords. So many people overlook quality score and the difference that it makes. But you know, look at these differences. This is how to get your costs down. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you're writing your ads as good as you can to make sure that they really, really stand out. So let's jump on now to the little tips in how to create your adverts. So these are my 4 weird little tips for advert writing that should double your click-through rate pretty much overnight. Okay, well then what we're going to do is we're going to talk through these and we'll then jump live into AdWords and we'll discuss some AdWords adverts live and I'll critique some for you. So what you would do is you would capitalize the first letter of each word. Let me demo that, okay? It's called title case. Okay, can you see that? That's called title case. And you do that throughout the whole advert. So you capitalize the first letter of each word in the whole advert. What you don't want is to capitalize everything and write in all capitals, because that would get banned. You write in title case, which is where you capitalize just the first letter. Now, I quite often get asked why. The answer is it's just been statistically proven solidly over time, over the past several years, that it always increases click-through rate. So now it's just an accepted norm in the AdWords world, is that this has been proven time after time to always work. So just accept it as standard. Next tip, put the keywords in the advert heading. So many people try to create one advert for hundreds of keywords. This just isn't possible. So what you need to do is you need to split your campaign up. You need to split your campaign up into lots of smaller groups called ad groups. Each of those needs a specific advert so that we can then put the keywords in the advert heading. If the keywords are in the advert heading, what then happens is it appears in bold, and I'll demo this very shortly. And if it appears in bold, again, it increases the click-through rate. What you cannot do is have hundreds of keywords with one poor little advert trying to do the work of them all. It just doesn't work. How can all of those hundreds of keywords all appear in that one little ad? Okay, so hopefully we've got some deep thought going on here of people thinking, oh goodness, right, okay, I can see what I was doing wrong in the past. So you need to make sure you've always got the specific keywords in the advert. Ideally in the heading is where we normally suggest you put it. Now thirdly, try asking a question. Now this really, really works. It can be quite a simple question. So let's say that let's look at our florist example again. So let's say that you were a Bristol florist. You might ask a question. Obviously we've got the keywords in the heading, so the heading would be Bristol florist. The next line of the advert might say, looking for flowers in Bristol, question mark. Now if they're looking for a Bristol florist, the chances are You've just asked a question to which the answer is yes. Now, people subconsciously cannot help but think yes. If you ask a question, they want to click it. If you ask a question to which they know the answer and they know the answer is yes, they will click your advert. So this alone, just asking a question, can double your click-through rate. So go away and try that. Try writing a few ads with questions in. What you can also do is including figures wherever possible. So this might be dates if you run courses. If you're an e-commerce website and you've got a last delivery date for Christmas, for example, put last delivery date for Christmas, 21st of December. If you can put a date in there, it stands out. If you've got a course date coming up, 26th and 27th of October, book now, that type of thing. Any dates, any numbers of any sort really, really works and really stands out. Right, let's go and jump in. I will do some demos of let's take a look at do a live critique of some adverts. Okay, so I will also point out some not so great adverts in here as well. Let me zoom in as well to make sure that you can see it. Right, now the adverts that we're currently looking at are here in the cream coloured box, and then we've got them down the right hand side. So I normally make sure that you recognise that these three are ads, because Google doesn't always make it as clear as possible. This cream colour box with this top three in has definitely become not as clear as it used to be, because I think Google doesn't want to shout about the fact that they're ads. A lot of people will say, I never click the ads, but that's because they're clicking this top three box, not realising that they're actually ads. So let's do a critique of some ads. So this one here, Rosina May Flowers, is not the best of examples, because you can see it doesn't even mention the word Bristol. In fact, it's shouting about their company. Now, when people are searching for Bristol Florist or whatever they are searching for, they want to check that you sell what they're searching for. They don't care yet what your company name is, with the exception of sometimes Marks and Spencer's, and John Lewis can get away with this, the big brands, that shout quality. They may be able to get away with this. Rosina Mayflowers, never heard of them, not a big enough brand. If you've got your company name in your advert heading, I definitely want you to go back and change it, because this is definitely lowering your quality score and meaning you're paying more for every single click than you need to. Let's take a look at the rest of the advert. So we've got prices in here. Delivery by local florist, $4.99. Okay, I like that. This one's got a telephone number in. This is slightly different. We won't cover this today, other than I'll just say that this works well. It's called a call extension. So that is a good technique to do. Let's have a look at this one. Can you see florist in Bristol? Okay, so we've got Bristol florist is what I searched for. They've got florist in Bristol. That's a fairly similar match. That's not too bad. But can you see how the word florist is in bold and the word Bristol is in bold? And again, we've got florist in bold here, Bristol in bold here. So what I definitely want you to do is make sure that you do a check on your competitors and see who's actually matching the keywords to the adverts correctly. See if there's any others in here. Okay, now this is an example of a very badly targeted. This one is not an English number. Obviously that's an American number. They're actually advertising in the wrong country. So that's extremely bad. That's back to the location targeting that we were looking at earlier on. That is, I'm imagining that must be a Bristol in the States, but that's a very bad example of the fact that that should not be showing here in the UK. There you go, that's the Marks and Spencer's example. So M&S can get away with putting their brand in there. I still strongly suspect if Marks and Spencer's were to follow this and actually rewrite their ads so that it didn't say M&S in the heading, so it said Florist Bristol, I personally think they'd get better results and improve their quality score. But that's just me. Who am I to tell Marks and Spencer's? Okay, so that's some examples of some good ads, some bad ads. I didn't see any questions. Actually, that one, yeah, need flowers today? Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so if somebody were to ask a question, a really powerful question, like need local flowers in Bristol, question mark, something like that, I strongly suspect that that ad would be the one getting the majority of the clicks on this page. So I think there's definitely, even in this, you would think this is a fairly competitive market, you know, even in this market, there's definitely always room for improvement. Okay, so that was a look at some adverts. Okay, so next thing, you should always be tracking your results. If you don't, it's called optimizing blind in you know, for those who manage AdWords, because it's really, really difficult to do. So you must be tracking what's bringing you leads. If you're not tracking results, how can you tell if it's working? And it's amazing how many people have not got this set up, and it's so easy to do. So what you need to do is you should not have an email address on your website, ideally. Ideally, you ask them to fill in a form. So if it's a contact us form or a call us back form, you make sure that you request their name, address, telephone number, etc. And it then submits a form that comes through to you that then takes them through to a thank you page. Now the thank you page is what would then trigger in AdWords, so you can now see a conversion. Okay, so you can tell the exact keyword that people used when they filled in a form. If you are only tracking by email address, yeah, okay, you might be able to track, say, well, it was AdWords was running today, so AdWords is the only place it can come from. I've heard that a lot, but the trouble is, you can't tell the precise keyword that they used. So you must be tracking it by a form. Okay, so very, very important. Really easy to do. If it's an e-commerce website, and then it's very, very easy to track sales through the e-commerce platform. So that as well, you definitely need to make sure that you're doing. You can also track phone calls as well. So tracking phone calls can be done. There's a number of different software solutions that help you track phone calls. There's one called Ad Insight, there's one called Infinity, and they charge anywhere from around about £100 a month, and they will actually help you track the phone calls back to the precise keywords that people used. Now that's the more expensive option. There are cheaper options, and that is you could just buy a call tracked number. I think there's one called City Numbers that I've heard people use, which is just a couple of pounds a month, and that means you'll at least be able to track that it came from AdWords, because you set up a specific number for AdWords that appears in the AdWords ads, etc. So that's a less sophisticated way of doing it. It's probably better to at least be doing that than not tracking the phone calls at all. Okay, so now you can't leave your AdWords account running by itself, because there's lots of things that need doing on an ongoing basis, and of course AdWords is always changing. So there's huge amounts of wastage. The adverts need testing on a weekly basis, so it needs something called split testing. So your advert, you need to always be running two adverts against each other, one that shows half the time, the other one that shows the other half the time. You then need to, on a weekly basis, be identifying which one's doing best. You need to make sure that you're adding new keywords in. Google will find new keywords for you. You either need to take them out because you didn't want to pay for them, or you could add them back in as new keywords. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, a bad keyword that you might want to take out is, I've had lots of people in the past who've said people search for their keyword with the word jobs after. So it might be London florist jobs, for example. You would want to add jobs as a negative. There's going to be lots of other keywords that you need to add as well as negative keywords to make sure you never pay for them again. Now I'm just going to very quickly jump in and go and demo where you can actually add the negative keywords. Okay, so we're in the Keywords tab. We would scroll down. On the Keywords tab at the very bottom, we've got something that says negative keywords. If I click the plus next to it, okay, you can see that we've then got lots of different negative keywords that have already been added. Okay, so we've got some competitors' names is what we've added in here. Car locksmithing isn't something. Cardiff isn't an area covered. Don't want anything to do with careers. Those are the type of negative keywords that you would add, because otherwise what would happen is you'll end up accidentally paying for them. Now the good news is that you can also identify new keywords. So you need to run a report once a week, ask Google what new keywords it's found, and it will have found those by matching them. Remember I said a couple of slides back that if you were to put Bristol florist with a plus in front of each, it would match it against things like florists in Bristol, Bristol florist, Bristol florist, so the singular and plural. It might match it against smaller districts, so it might match it against city centre, Bristol florists, etc. You run a report and you identify new keywords that Google's found, and you can then add those back in their own right. And what will then happen is if you then added city centre Bristol florist in as a new keyword, next time somebody searches for that, you'll likely get 100% click-through rate, because you're the only one that's gone to the trouble of running this report, identifying the keyword, adding it back in and writing an advert just about that city centre Bristol florist. Okay, so that's a good way of finding new keywords. What I would suggest that you definitely do today is get familiar with where the negative keywords are, okay, and add some negative keywords. You're going to want to add things like job, jobs, vacancy, vacancies, position, positions, because there's lots of people that look for job-related keywords. Free, some of you might offer a free trial, in which case you wouldn't want to add the word free, but most of us, if they're searching for something free, they're not the greatest of leads. You know, so you would normally want to add free. Some people want to add cheap in as a negative because they want to be seen as higher end premium. Somebody looking for something cheap isn't willing to pay for their services. Some other negatives I've seen in the past, you might also sometimes come across some odd ones. So I was working on an account for Golf Plan, who offer insurance for golfers. They were bidding on keywords such as golf insurance, which is obviously to protect people playing golf, but they were accidentally being found for keywords such as VW, so Volkswagen golf insurance. So obviously we had to go in and add VW and Volkswagen as negatives. Those are some odd ones that will be specific to your industry. So you'll find a whole set of negatives that you need to identify as well. Okay, so these reports, these are called search query reports, and they need to be run once a week. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you where to go to actually find this information. So what you would do is in AdWords, okay, you would set the time frame. So I've scrolled up to the top, I've set the time frame to all time, okay, on the date selector. Then I'm going to go to, I'm in the keywords tab still, so I've not changed. Details, search terms, I'm then going to, underneath where it says search terms, I'm going to click all. And this is what's called the magical search query report. And what will happen is when you run this report, and you can download it and play around with it in Excel if you want to, you'll be able to find lots of keywords, some of which you'd never guessed, and you think, right, okay, I need to add that as a new keyword. Some of which you'll think, goodness me, I didn't realise I was paying for that. This is where all my money's going. So that's what I'm hoping some of you will find, that this is why AdWords hasn't worked for you in the past. You realise that you needed to add it as a negative. If you wanted to add it as a negative, you could either add it to where I just showed you previously, or if I tick this box, you see there's that option there? Add as negative. Okay, then quite simply save it. Okay, you can see it now says excluded, because that means I've now added it as a negative. So what I've done is I've run a report, I've identified something I didn't want to appear for. I've identified I didn't want to appear for this, that's obviously a competitor. Didn't want to appear on that competitor's name, I've added it as a negative. Okay, so I'm asked about competitors a lot, by the way. So if you normally you either want to bid on competitors' names or not. You need to make a decision as a company whether to do that. But bear in mind, if you do bid on competitors, they're highly likely to start doing it back to you. So do bear that in mind. So you need to make the decision, are we going to bid on competitors' names or aren't we? Okay, so that's my standard advice there. Okay, so unfortunately, there is no magic button. As you can see, you need to work regularly on your AdWords account. It's not a magic switch. It's not something you can turn on and go, right, that's it, that was easy. Look, I've set up a few keywords, one ad, that's it, off we go. It's going to be hundreds of leads flying in. It's not that easy. What you need to do is work on it weekly. You need to be testing new adverts. You need to be identifying new keywords, researching competitors, editing the bids up and down, looking at landing pages, looking at mobile adverts. Okay, so there's all kinds of things you need to do to your mobile campaigns. You can put your bids up by up to 900% just on your mobile ads, which really works for people in emergency situations, locksmiths, plumbers, electricians. People are in an emergency situation. They're going to search on a mobile. And they're much more likely to convert, so you would want to put the bids up. Okay, so there's so many things you need to do on a weekly basis. Okay, and you need to be able to have a template that shows you what to follow on a weekly basis. You know, what am I supposed to be doing each week? Right, okay, so I've chucked in an extra bonus that I didn't mention here, which is I'm just going to very quickly demo something that I'm often asked about, which is how to take competitors out. So how do I stop competitors from clicking my ads? This is the #1 question that I get asked, is how do I stop competitors from clicking on my ads? I'm going to demo that very quickly to you. Now I use a piece of software which is called Clicky to do that. Okay, it's just clicky.com. It's free for the first site, so it means you'll be able to test this very easily. It is tracking code you install on your computer in the same way as Google Analytics. Clicky have a WordPress plugin that you can just install very quickly, really easy to set up. And this is how you would then use it. Okay, if I was to go into a site, most of you obviously when you set it up would only have one site on there, and your screen will look very similar to this one. I would go to the Visitors tab. Okay, and the time frame, let's go look at the last 90 days. Now what I want is who has been visiting my site most often, because competitors, let's face it, they're going to be on the site quite often. They're going to be clicking your ads quite a lot. Lots of people are very worried their competitors click their ads every day, and I have proof that competitors do click people's ads every day. So this is how to stop them. So the most active visitors, who are the most active visitors? We want to find the people that are back on the site continually. Okay, now hopefully my screen's going to catch up with me at some point. So what we're now going to see when my screen catches up with me is a list of people who have visited the site 10 times, 8 times, 6 times. What you then want to do is you want to analyze them to see if they're coming and clicking on your AdWords ads. If they're clicking on your AdWords ads, what will be happening is you'll see a little green dollar symbol next to each of their visits that means that they're actually clicking on your ads. So let's go and look. I'm imagining the people with the most visits is probably me, but let's go and pick a user. So this is their IP address. So this person has made 19 visits. What I would be looking for is, here's their visit dates and times. Here it would have a green dollar symbol if they'd come from an AdWords ad. This one isn't a suspicious one. This one's nothing to worry about, so I'm going to click the back button. Let's take a look at this one. Okay, so this one again, no little green dollar symbols next to it. Okay, to be honest, I'm highly unlikely to find any on mine, so I don't think I'm going to find any live examples for you. But on yours, this is what it would look like. Okay, it would be most active visitors, pick the IP addresses, look through each one who spends a lot of time on your site, and then look to see what are they coming through on. Have they come through on AdWords ad after AdWords ad after AdWords ad? And people I find are particularly bad for this are locksmiths. and emergency emergency professions where they're spending a lot of time and they're spending a lot of money on their AdWords and they're spending a lot of time clicking each other's ads. Unfortunately, it's just a very competitive market. So that's my experience, is locksmith being particularly bad. Not had worked with several charities where I don't keep an eye on this at all, because obviously charities just don't, it's not something that they would do, click each other's ads. So there's some cases where you just wouldn't ever need to look for that. But now let's imagine that this IP address I had identified some dodgy behavior from, and I had these little green dollar symbols next to each visit. What I want is the IP address. I'm going to zoom in slightly so that you can see. Okay, so I'm going to grab the IP address, okay, highlight the IP address, going to copy it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to block their IP address so that they can no longer see the ads. So I will have completely blocked them. Now this works in the majority of cases where people have got an IP address that doesn't change, which is most of the time. So at least 80% of the time people will have an IP address that you'll be able to block. Okay, so what I would then do is I would go into each campaign. You need to do this for each campaign. I would then go into the settings. So same places I showed you earlier. I would scroll down and look for something that says IP exclusions. Okay, so it's IP exclusions. Manage IP exclusions. I've clicked the edit button next to it. Okay, and I would then paste the IP address in, save it, and that would be the IP address blocked. Okay, so it's as simple as that. Now what would happen is when they search for a local locksmith or local florist or whatever your keywords are, they will no longer see your advertising. So they'll think they actually won. They'll think that all of their clicking meant that you'd stopped advertising. So it's actually quite funny in a way. So as you can see, that is a really useful technique, and that's the most common thing that I'm asked about on the internet, is how to actually stop people from actually viewing, from being able to click on each other's ads. Well, I'm actually getting a sign coming up saying that I've got a slight problem with my sound. Can everybody hear me okay at the moment? Yeah, okay, got lots of yeses coming through. Yeah, apologies for that. It's coming up with a signal saying that I need to start closing internet applications. I think I'm going to close Clicky because perhaps it's that's causing a slight delay. I don't want to risk losing you completely. Right, okay, so can you sell by Google AdWords? So if you actually set it up correctly and you follow a chosen system and template, then there's actually no technical skills needed. There's no sales training needed. It's really easy to do. I've trained hundreds of people to be able to set up AdWords accounts. It takes just a few minutes a day, and I've actually got a system that I'm going to demo to you in a couple of minutes, which has actually been created with the newbie in mind. So even if you're brand new to AdWords, you'll be able to understand this. So it's totally step-by-step videos that I've recorded one by one. Even beginners can get really fast results. So it works even if you're brand new to AdWords. So even if you're brand new to AdWords, so Mike Bellum's one of our course members, set up an AdWords campaign, got it delivering results straight away, even though he was brand new to AdWords. If you're using AdWords already, even if you're already an expert, even if you are running a web marketing company like Gary Miller here, it even works whatever type of level of technical expertise you've got. Even if you worry about being confused, like Tom here, so he was worried about being confused about all of the tasks surrounding AdWords, found it a lot easier having done the course. If you're technically minded, there's lots of features of AdWords that you won't have realised you needed to concentrate on. If you're in the B2B market, so Laura McCrum, £50,000 a year it added to her turnover, and that was since the training back in 2007, 2008. And some of you will recognise this chap. Some of you may have spoken to him at some point. So Steve is the one that's actually arranged for me to talk to you today from names.co.uk and register 365. And even if you've got a larger AdWords budget, then this training can work for you. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate to you, I've got a system that will show you how to actually set up an AdWords campaign from scratch. Okay, and it's called Red Hot Web Leads. So I'm just going to demonstrate it to you very quickly. Okay, so it's called Red Hot Web Leads, and it looks like this. So it's a series of 40 videos. So what I did was I took my face-to-face courses, both the intro level course and the advanced level course, and then additional training, so all of the extras as well, as AdWords has been changing. And I recorded a series of 40 videos. So we've got here the Getting Started video. We then got how to set up your AdWords campaign correctly. So you can see we've got 17 videos here. These videos are all short videos. Most of them are up to around about 5 minutes long, so they're not hugely lengthy. Once you've actually set it up, what to do on an ongoing basis. So how to manage your AdWords campaign, what to do. So we've then got an additional 12 videos down here. We've then got weekly calls. Okay, so we've got weekly calls that we run once a week, how to book onto them, where to book onto them. We've then got the processes that you need to follow to get your account set up correctly, processes that you need to follow to know what to do on an ongoing basis. And we've also got weekly calls, as you can see on here. So weekly calls we've got once a week, so that if you've got any questions with AdWords, what do I do next, you just simply hop on to the call. Okay, so that's our Red Hot Web Lead system. So it's got a starting value of £790, which is what I was charging for the intro course and the advanced course. That's how much you would have paid if you'd come on a course with me, actually privately in Bristol or London. We've got the group mastermind call each week, okay, which has got, it's a mastermind call. If you can't make it, then we record the calls and we upload them, but it means you've always got a way of getting your questions answered. Got questions in between each week, you simply ask them. We've got a support forum and we go in there daily and answer questions. You also get 2 private phone calls with me. Okay, so I charge £150 for a half-hour consultation, as you'll see on my training website, which is helpwithppc.com. So you get 2 of those. That can be how to set up your campaign, how to set up your landing pages, where to get started with your account, etc. And you can book the second one in once the account's been running for a couple of weeks or a month, whatever suits you. So at any point, if you get stuck, we've got support staff, Karen and Daniel, who are here to help you. We've got our email address, team@clairejarrett.com. Most of the support is done through our forum, where you get the fastest response. We've got a support telephone number as well, which is 01454 838 793. But basically it means at any stage you're not alone. Okay, so it means you can get help at any step of the way. Okay, so if you're interested in the package, I'm just going to send it to you quickly now. She says. Okay, and what you'll see is once you get to the page, there's a couple of different payment options for those of you that are interested in it. So we either got a one-off payment, which is £497 for a one-off. We then got the option underneath for those of you that are from Ireland. I've got the no tax option, so make sure you choose that one if you're from Ireland, and then send over your EU VAT number to us, please. And we've then also got a payment option for those of you that want to split the payment, so we've then got 3 monthly payments of £197. Now, if you still want more help at this stage, it comes with a bonus for all those who want to buy the product today. We've got a template software that I personally designed, with videos showing you how to use it, that show you how to set up an AdWords campaign. This is what we ourselves use. So you can set up probably, I would say, around about 1,000 ad groups in a couple of hours. It's extremely fast to do. So back to what I was mentioning about how you need to split your existing account up with all of those keywords into more groups with more relevant adverts to increase quality score. This template will do that for you. Okay, so all of those who buy today get this software, and it will hugely reduce the amount of time involved in setting up your account. And then for the first 10 of you who would like to buy this product, you can also get help from my team 4 hours, so we'll actually do the setup for you. So if you aren't too sure, you've looked at your campaign, you're not too sure what keywords you should be using, not too sure about what keywords are going to work best, what landing pages should I be using, what bids should I be using, then you quite simply, you just book in a call and you then say, right, I want to take advantage of my 4 hours free setup time, and we'll do it for you, and then you just take over managing it afterwards. Okay, so it comes with a full money back guarantee. So if it doesn't work for you, if you've tried the full system, if you tried the templates, you don't like it, if you're finding it's not working, then simply let us know and you can get all your money back. So it comes with a full 90-day guarantee. Okay, so let me just send you that URL again. Right, okay, I will be opening up for questions very shortly. I need to find what I've done with my questions box. Okay, so one question, what happens once you've bought the product? Okay, that's a great question. So once you've bought it, if you buy it using PayPal, which is what the button will take you through to, so this button will take you straight in, so any of these buttons, as soon as you've checked out through PayPal, it will set you up immediately with the username and password, and you'll be able to get in immediately. So you'll be able to get in and start watching videos, you can book your call, you can get into the template and start setting up your AdWords account. It happens that fast, okay? So I would strongly suggest you start off by, once you're in, watching the first video that is a demo video that says, here's how to get everything you need, here's to book on, how to book onto the weekly calls, etc. Okay, so is the content all ready now? Yes, it's all ready now. So it's all there. As you can see, I've just demoed it. All the content is in there ready. It's not drip fed, so some of you will know what I mean by drip fed. So it doesn't mean that bit by bit you can only get into certain bits one week and then another week a few other elements are added. It's all in there immediately. You can get into everything straight away. So can we pay using something other than PayPal? Yeah, sorry, lots of you won't like PayPal. Yeah, okay, so if you don't want to pay using PayPal, then you simply call the number. Let me try and see if I can figure out how to send you my phone number. Okay, you simply call the number and we will give you a call back, and we'll be able to take payment either by credit card over the phone if you prefer, or we can actually send you an invoice and you can pay by backs. We can also take direct debit payments. There's a couple of different payment options. So yeah, if you don't want to pay by PayPal, that's absolutely fine. But of course, if it's waiting for backs payment or something like that, then it does mean that we'll have to wait to give you your access details until the payment's gone through. Okay, so how does the fast action bonus work for the 4 hours free setup time? So how it works is you would normally book the call in with me, and you would ask me to do an audit, and I would identify what needs doing on the account, and you then say, right, okay, I want to use that to claim the 4 hours free time, could you go ahead and do that? So we would then go and reset up the account, do the work that needs doing. So yeah, just work like that. So it'd start off by booking the call in, I would say. Okay, right, let me go into some more of these questions. Rod says, can I send this presentation to a colleague? Yes, you can, Rod, yep. I set up my company 2 months ago. I've not launched my website yet, says Amy. Yes. Ooh. Amy, how long is it going to be till your website's launched? Because if it's going to be just a very brief time, then it should be fine. 2 months, right, okay. 2 months is possibly, yeah, I think, Amy, let me get back to you privately about that one afterwards, all right? Because it might be that maybe we could hold the offer for you or chat to you about the offer separately, okay? Okay, so I've got dozens of questions going through here. Let me just go through. Mark says, is there a negative keyword generator? Not that I'm aware of, no. So normally we would find negative keywords from running the reports each week. And then you find the ones that are relevant to your market would be what I would suggest. Okay. Paul, you're welcome. Do you pay for negative keywords? Great question. No, you don't pay for negative keywords. In fact, once you've added the negative keywords, what will happen is you no longer pay for clicks. You no longer pay for people to actually see your website because your adverts won't appear. So let's say, for example, you have the negative keyword of jobs. If somebody searched for Bristol florist jobs, what would happen is your advert would no longer show. So no, you definitely wouldn't pay for it. Right, just scrolling through, looking at questions. Right, okay, somebody's asked about keyword generators. There are keyword research tools. That is part of what we go through on the course, John. So yes, we do cover keyword generators, keyword research tools. Charlie, glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, there is another webinar coming up soon that should be in your email very shortly. So that's on a different topic. There's one on Thursday. So yes, indeed. You do indeed need to embed code on your website in order to be able to use Clicky. Okay, still scrolling through. I've got hundreds of questions here. Okay, so what dictates whether your ad appears at the top of the page or on the right-hand side? It's down to bid, quite simply. If you bid more, you're likely to appear in the top 3. The ones on the right-hand side won't be bidding enough to actually appear in the top. So that's why you need to be able to be bidding enough to appear in the top 3. Okay, still scrolling through. Right, okay, so I've got questions about how you would be able to get to the recording of the webinar. Now, what I will do is on this page, okay, let me just send it to you again. Okay, so on this one, which is redhotwebleads.com/names offer, I will load the presentation into, it will appear just here. So once it's been recorded and uploaded, well, the recording needs to be converted and uploaded to YouTube, I will then post it on here. Okay, so it will be available for the next couple of days. So let me just send you that link. Okay, glad you enjoyed it, Gavin. Glad you enjoyed it, Dean. So can you find out how much competitors are paying? Unfortunately, you can't. You can take a good guess, but of course, you don't know what their quality score is at the end of the day. So no, unfortunately, you can't find out how much competitors are paying. Somebody says, are any of the other webinars available? Because I missed some. Unfortunately not, because the recordings are only ever available for 48 hours. So they're not, but there is a list of upcoming webinars that I have sent round by email earlier today, actually. So if you check your email, you should see the list of the future ones. Okay. Unfortunately, you won't actually be able to keep the presentation for reference, but I will be sending around the recording, which you'll be able to get into for the next couple of days, so you'll be able to make good notes on it for the next couple of days, so you'll be able to rewatch it. Rob says, are the forms you mentioned to track conversions set up in Google AdWords or Analytics? Well, the forms aren't set up in AdWords, they're tracked through AdWords. And you could track it through AdWords or you could track it through Analytics as a goal if you prefer, if you know what I mean by that. Then you could just track the URL. Dean, thank you. You're welcome, Elvira. How many ads is considered optimum per website, says Edward. Right, I have accounts, right, you ready for this? With 50,000 adverts. Okay, in larger accounts, I have got some with thousands and thousands. So it is definitely, it's definitely recommended to have more rather than less. The more ads you have, the more relevant each advert's going to be. So you need, each advert belongs to a specific keyword. Okay, so that's what my training takes you through, is how to actually achieve that. But you need to make sure that you have as many ads as many keywords you've got. So if you do your research and you identify 100 keywords, you're going to end up with 100 ads, then a second one for split testing, so that's 200 ads. You can start to see how big your campaign's going to get really, really quickly. I've got a question. Why is there a maximum negative keyword length of 10 words? If I would say you're extremely unlikely to ever need anything longer than 10 words. For negative keywords, most of the time you want to bring it down to a single word. Free, jobs, because that prevents any chance of it ever showing. And so you definitely need to try and get it down to a single word wherever possible. So you'd normally not want to have it as 10. Right, come on, looking through. You're welcome, Edward. Hannah says, do you pay for the amount of ads or the amount of keywords that you have? You pay whatever your daily budget is set to, and it will not exceed that. So if your daily budget's £10 a day, that's all you'll pay. Even if you've got 100 keywords and 100 ads, even if you've got 5 keywords and 5 ads, it's whatever your daily budget is set to, that's whatever you'll pay. And even then, if you spend under your daily budget, that's all you'll pay. So they won't always spend your daily budget every day. You're welcome, Georgina. Steve, you're welcome. Jim Marie says, can one trust the pre-calculated bids for top page bidding by Google? My ads are not always there when I expect them to be. It's a very good question. No, you can't, because of course it depends on competitor behaviour. So of course they may put their bids up in response to you putting yours up. So no, but that's the AdWords game really, is, you know, it would always be a case of tweaking it, putting it up slightly, if you see that you're not falling in the top 3, etc. So no, you would always need to be monitoring it, ideally. Right, okay, good luck, Tracy. If you've got a quality score of 7, but there's been no clicks on the specific keywords, it probably just means that there's not enough search volume, there's not enough people searching for it, Josie. Might mean your bids aren't high enough, etc., something like that. So yes, there's a number of reasons it could be. Okay, it works in any country indeed, yes. So I've set campaigns up running all across the world in multiple countries. So yes, it works anywhere in the world. Obviously, you would need to set your ads up in a different language if you're advertising to non-English speakers. It doesn't translate it for you, just to confirm. Sarah, you're welcome. Vincent, you're welcome. Tony says if I redirect my website to a .com domain to attract the United States public, is it better to make a new ad? Yes, Google doesn't like redirect, so you would need to create new adverts anyway for your particular new domain, yes. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it there, and if you've still got questions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you across. We've got our own Facebook group where you can come and jump in and ask questions. Okay, come and say hello and join in the chat, and if you've got further questions, etc., then you can pop them in there. Okay, so hopefully you've just seen that I've sent you a URL to a Facebook group. Okay, and if you've got further questions, then we can take them in the group, and I will upload the recording later this afternoon. It's been lovely to speak to you all, and hopefully see a lot of you on Thursday for Thursday's webinar, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.